Welcome to the Deep Dive. It is December 12th, 2025. And today, the AI news cycle isn't just fast. It feels like the entire structure of the industry is being redefined, pretty much all at once. We're seeing these huge shifts in research, big policy mandates, and this accelerating geopolitical race for hardware, all hitting on the same day.
That simultaneous pressure is exactly what makes today so crucial for you to understand. You've got this collision of infrastructure control thing, federal preemption in the US, and these massive Asian chip investments happening at the same time as major leaps in model capability. We're talking OpenAI's GPT 5.2 and Meta's pretty radical new architecture, VLJPA. This deep dive is really about seeing the future battlegrounds being drawn up right now.
And our mission, as always, is to give you that shortcut. We've taken the stack of essential intelligence published today, December 12th, and distilled it for you. We've got the most critical date-locked nuggets across research, product, policy, and infrastructure. So let's jump straight into the lab. Let's start with the foundational science, because the biggest story in research today is, well, it's a crisis of trust.
It's structurally concerning, yeah. And let's look at why. Researchers at Stanford are basically calling it a crisis. There are new studies revealing something they've dubbed fantastic bugs that are just lurking in these widely used AI benchmarks.
Okay, fantastic bugs. Let's unpack that. How widespread is this, and what kind of impact are we really talking about?
So the study revealed that approximately 5% of popular AI benchmarks contain just serious fundamental flaws. We're talking about mismatched labels, logical inconsistencies, errors so severe they can completely invert the perceived performance of these models.
Invert the hierarchy. Can you give us an example, something that proves this isn't just some academic footnote?
Absolutely. Look at the DeepSeek R1 model. Based on the flawed benchmarks, it was ranked in the bottom third of comparable models. After the researchers corrected the errors in the test data, DeepSeek R1 jumped all the way to second place.
Wow.
Imagine basing your R&D budget or your whole partnership strategy on a ranking that was just fundamentally wrong. This isn't just science. This is, millions of dollars at stake because of bad data.
And it sounds like there was another problem they found, right? About models learning the wrong lesson.
That's the problem of misspecified benchmarks. The model gets a high score by learning spurious correlations, so irrelevant features, instead of the actual pattern. For instance, a model is supposed to detect a disease on an X-ray, but instead it just learns to recognize the metal chest tube in the image. It's basically cheating the test.
Which undermines the whole point, especially for safety-critical applications.
Exactly.
So the industry needs better tests, and fast. That's crucial context. But even with all this happening, architectural innovation is still pushing forward. We saw a major update from Meta AI today.
We did. The release of VLJPA. That stands for Vision Language Joint Embedding Predictive Architecture. And this is a fundamental departure from the standard approach. Traditional models are autoregressive. They predict the next word, kind of like filling in a blank step by step. VLJPA instead predicts continuous embeddings. Think of it more like predicting the idea or the mood of what comes next, not the exact words.
That sounds like it would be way more efficient. What's the metric that proves the value here?
Efficiency is absolutely the key. This shift achieves strong performance while requiring 50% fewer trainable parameters compared to traditional vision language models. Fewer parameters means less compute, lower energy use, and crucially, it lets you deploy these big multimodal systems more easily on, say, edge devices.
Okay, moving to more practical applications. Over in South Korea, they announced a big advance in making AI decisions transparent in real time.
Right, this is the AB's QR system, developed by KAIST and Kakao Bank. For regulated industries like banking, every AI decision, say, on a loan, needs an instant justification. ABS2R is a real-time, explainable AI system that's just significantly faster. It operates up to 8.5 times faster while keeping accuracy high at 93.5%.
And what's the real-world impact of that speed boost?
It just radically lowers the compliance barrier. Before, banks could argue that explaining every single microtransaction slowed things down too much. With this kind of performance, that excuse is gone. It really paves the way for much wider adoption of these explainable systems in finance.
And, almost as a necessary response to those benchmark issues we started with, the research world got a major practical upgrade.
Exactly. We saw Archive and Papers with Code announce a deep integration. So now all machine learning articles on Archive automatically feature a code and data tab that links right to the papers with code entries. It's a really crucial practical tool for researchers to track where datasets came from, what code was used. It's the immediate antidote for scrutinizing those results we were just talking about.
It's great to talk theory, but what can we actually use today? That takes us straight into product releases. And OpenAI just dropped something major for the enterprise, the GPT 5.2 model series.
Yeah, this rollout is explicitly focused on professional knowledge work. We're talking long-running agents, complex tool use, and much better long context understanding. 128K context windows and beyond. They've launched a few variants, Instant, Thinking, and Pro, each optimized for different needs.
When you're talking enterprise, reliability is everything.
Yeah.
What's the metric that should give businesses confidence here?
The Pro variant, which is optimized for quality, shows a really significant leap in reliability. It was benchmarked as generating 38% fewer errors than its predecessor. That's not a small change. It's targeted at making the model reliable enough for mission-critical tasks where one error can be really costly.
And speaking of agents, we have this fascinating case study on how models are now building other products at an incredible speed.
This is the story of the Sora mobile app for Android. OpenAI's engineering team published a case study on how they built and shipped the entire thing in just 28 days. And the way they did it, they essentially delegated the job to one of their own, a GPT 5.1 codex agent.
85% of the code base was written by the AI, is that right? That just fundamentally changes the economics of software development?
It really does. The AI coding agent generated an estimated 85% of the code. This is real-world proof that LLMs are not just assistants anymore. They are transforming engineering capacity.
Meanwhile, Google is pushing the envelope on the UI side, shifting from static text answers to interactive tools.
That's the rollout of Google Generative UI in the Gemini app and Search AI mode. So instead of just getting text and links, the model can create these immersive, interactive tools and simulations right in the search results. User preference studies showed these executable AI results just blew standard text out of the water.
And on the voice front, which is so important for natural interaction, Google also had an update.
Yes, the Google Search Live feature now uses a new Gemini 2.5 native audio model. This makes the voice conversations much more fluid and expressive. It isn't just about speed. It's about expressive intonation, making the interaction feel fundamentally more human.
And finally, in this segment, a major step towards simulation and embodied AI environments came from Runway.
Runway launched the General World Model, or GWM1 family, and they've specialized these models for three things: generating explorable environments, creating speaking characters they call avatars, and producing synthetic training data for robotics. This is a huge strategic pivot for them, moving beyond just static video into full explorable simulation. That's really the bedrock for training the next generation of robots.
Okay, let's pivot to the geopolitical layer. Segment C, the race for hardware supremacy. We're moving from the lab to the server racks, and this is all about big strategic numbers.
We have to start with the raw investment figures from Asia. China is deliberating a massive semiconductor incentive package, potentially up to $70 billion. We're talking 200 to 500 billion yuan. This is one of the largest government chip investments globally, and it's a direct response to U.S. export controls.
But the U.S. chip industry is responding with major traction in custom silicon, which seems to be the way to go for the frontier labs.
Broadcom confirmed that today. They revealed an enormous $73 billion AI infrastructure backlog for the next 18 months. And crucially, they named Anthropic as the custom ASIC client that previously placed that $10 billion order for Google TPU Ironwood racks.
That's the real signal for the market. Why does Anthropic choosing custom ASICs application-specific integrated circuits over GPUs matter for someone who isn't tracking silicon?
It confirms that for companies at the frontier training the biggest models, the custom ASIC route is now a dominant strategic alternative to just buying off-the-shelf NVIDIA chips. It offers much greater efficiency and cost control in the long run.
And Taiwan, the heart of global chip manufacturing, is tying its national fate to sovereign AI.
Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te inaugurated their new cloud computing center, featuring the Nano supercomputer. It's a huge statement. The facility houses 1,760 NVIDIA H200 chips and 144 of the next-gen Blackwell chips. This infrastructure lets Taiwan do its own large-scale model training without relying on external clouds.
We also saw India strengthening its domestic ecosystem through a pretty powerful partnership.
The Memorandum of Understanding signed between Tata Electronics and Intel. They're exploring collaboration in manufacturing, advanced packaging, and AI computing solutions inside India. This directly supports India's national mission, which has already approved projects worth about $19 billion for its domestic chip ecosystem.
All right, let's move to policy and governance, because the U.S. federal government just made a definitive move against state-level AI regulation. This is setting up a legal conflict.
President Trump signed an executive order today. The goal is a single national framework for AI. The core of it is federal preemption limiting the ability of states like California or Colorado to set their own rules.
So how is the federal government planning to enforce this over the states?
They're using both legal and economic hammers. Legally, the order directs the Justice Department to form an AI litigation task force specifically to challenge state AI laws. Economically, and this is where it gets really interesting, the order uses the Commerce Secretary to clarify eligibility for the $42.5 billion BEAD program.
Wait, so they're tying vital infrastructure funding money for rural broadband to compliance with this new federal AI framework?
Precisely. If states want that massive pool of funding, they may have to align their local AI regulations with the new federal standard. This sets up a major constitutional fight.
Looking globally, South Korea is also dramatically escalating its policy ambition.
South Korea's deputy prime minister announced they're aiming to develop an independent top 10 global foundation model by next year. And to back that up, the government secured a massive $9.9 trillion, about $7.5 billion US dollars, for its 2026 AI budget. This is the largest increase in the country's history.
And India is taking steps to address one of the most contentious issues out there: copyright and training data.
Right. India's DPIIT released a working paper proposing major changes to their Copyright Act. The centerpiece is a blanket licensing framework for AI data scraping. The goal is twofold: provide clarity for AI companies investing in India, while also making sure content creators get royalties. It's an attempt to solve the legal mess that's currently plaguing the US and Europe.
Finally, before we move on, there's a critical safety report about consumer products.
The U.S. Public Interest Research Group, PIRG, released its Trouble in Toyland report. It highlighted severe safety gaps in AI-powered toys. And this isn't theoretical. The report found cases where AI toys directed children to dangerous items or generated inappropriate content. It exposes a huge gap in safety guardrails for products aimed at kids.
That's a crucial counterpoint. Okay, let's look at enterprise adoption and incidents. The scale of deployment in global finance today is huge.
The Spanish banking group BBVA announced a multi-year partnership with OpenAI. They're expanding ChatGPT Enterprise to 120,000 employees across all business areas. The pilot showed employees saved about 3 hours a week on routine tasks, and that's what's driving this massive rollout.
And in the U.S. government, we've hit a new milestone for security.
Google Cloud announced the deployment of Gemini for government. It's the first enterprise AI platform on GenAI.mil, the military's internal AI platform. This is targeting 3 million civilian and military personnel. The key here is the security clearance. It has Impact Level 5, or IL5, authorization.
And for our listeners, what does IL5 authorization actually let the platform handle?
IL5 means it's authorized for highly sensitive, controlled, non-classified data that's mission critical. So deploying Gemini on this platform sets a new high-security benchmark for government AI infrastructure, a major win for Google.
We also saw adoption in law enforcement and critical healthcare.
In India, yeah. Mahakrimios AI launched for cybercrime investigations in Maharashtra, scaling to 1,100 police stations. It's built with Azure OpenAI service, and it acts as a co-pilot for law enforcement. And in Germany, Deutsche Telekom and Fraunhofer are collaborating on AI agents for trauma rooms, processing verbal information to organize medical data in emergencies.
And finally, a brief but relevant incident today that shows the challenge of scaling all this.
Yes, OpenAI status page reported a few service incidents today, specifically unexpected disconnections of the ChatGPT connector and errors with the GitHub connector affecting Codex users. It just highlights that even with the best models, integrating them reliably with third-party tools is still a massive ongoing challenge.
It certainly is. Now, before we sign off, let's quickly recap a couple of resources and the two numbers that really define the day.
For developers, keep an eye on the new Agentic AI Foundation, co-founded by Anthropic, Block, and OpenAI. They've just released the open-source Agents Us.md specification for building interoperable agents.
And if you're working on complex search and retrieval, we'd recommend exploring Google's Deep Search QA benchmark and the Gemini Deep Research API that comes with it.
And now for our two standout numbers of the day.
First, $73 billion. That is Broadcom's astonishing disclosed AI infrastructure backlog over the next 18 months. It really underscores that shift to custom silicon.
And second, 3 million. That's the number of U.S. civilian and military personnel targeted for immediate deployment of Google's Gemini for government on that newly IL5 authorized platform. That is a colossal footprint.
So if we connect all the pieces from today, the political ambition, the huge investment, the deep research, what does this all mean for the coming year?
Well, we've seen this incredible geopolitical ambition today, right? The U.S. is centralizing policy control, and Asian nations like South Korea, Taiwan are pushing so hard for sovereign compute. But this ambition is running headlong into a scientific crisis. The Stanford report showed us that the very tools we use to measure AI capability, our benchmarks, are flawed. They're unreliable. So the final thought for you to consider is this. Can we effectively regulate or compete using AI if we can't reliably and trustworthily measure if our models are even robust? Or if they just learned a fantastic bug? The immediate priority has to be fixing that foundation of trust.
A crisis of measurement at the core of massive investment. That is certainly the question that's going to define the next chapter. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive into the updates of December 12, 2025. We'll catch you next time.